Good evening. Tonight I'm going to cover some things that have happened. These are true stories that appeared in the newspaper, and they're by semi-famous people. All stories of what happened to them, as explained. The first one is going to be the story of a young girl that committed suicide while she was away from home. At the hour of her death, she appeared to her mother and an intimate friend. The mother, Argentina A. Françoise de Torres of the French College at Cordoba, was alone in the house when at about 7:15 in the evening the door was closed and a large heavy stone was inside the room, lying against the door. She heard the stone removed and the noise of the hinges turning. She called out, but no one responded. So she went over to investigate. In the courtroom, she heard a strange noise, similar to the labored flight of a condor, and at the same time she saw her daughter, Kalina, wrapped in a white winding sheet, glide like a shadow among the flowers. That same evening, the sad news was broken to her that her daughter, Kalina, had shot herself to death at the hour when she had seen and heard the noise of the apparition. At the same time, in another part of the city, Kalina was seen by Santos Ann, a young girl to whom she was greatly attached. She was home alone at the time of the suicide, about which she had no knowledge, when she saw the white-clad figure of her chum appear and float from room to room. She realized that a specter was Santos, called out to her, but there was no response. A physical investigator and writer contributed the article, The Annals of Pathological Research, in which he describes the apparition of the calf with fiery eyes. He himself saw the calf, which appeared in the thickest that was nearest home, and the spectral calf frightened horses, dogs, deers, and peasants. It was reddish-brown with flashing eyes. Sometimes horses shed on passing the clump of trees. Dogs lay down and refused to proceed, and a herd of deer one day raced out of the thicket, and behind them was seen the fiery-eyed red-brown calf. He and a friend were strolling past the trees one day when the dogs just stopped and lay down and could not be induced to go on. Immediately, the red-brown calf appeared, sparks shooting from its sides, crossed the road directly in front of him and disappeared in between the thicket. Then we have a story of Mrs. Marie Omler. Now, she is somebody well-known, a small novelist, and she's known to be a person of honor. And she tells the story that she had a pet named Mac, and she was very close. And she was in her bedroom just resting when she was approached by her favorite dog, which didn't appear to be quite normal. She was just given birth to a baby, and she was wakened by the scuffling sound. Turning her head, she saw old Max coming into that room, dripping wet, Without speaking, I dropped my hand over the side of the bed, and the dog dropped his head, sniffed, then his head went up, and he ran to the bedside, thrust his cold, wet nose into my palm, and disappeared. She called an orderly and the nurse, but they didn't see the dog. Several days later, her husband had to break the sad news that Mac had drowned, and that about the identical time that she saw, heard, and touched him. So that's a lady with her pet. Now, there is the case of a ghost that rang a doorbell. Mrs. Bertha Harper, mother of Williamina Harper, librarian and author, relates this experience. While I was living in New York, my doorbell rang unusually loud. Admitting a friend, she was asking him about the loud ring. He said, "Never mind," jokingly. "Next spring, when my bell rings louder than ever, you'll know that it's me, because I've gone to my old house in Germany for now, and I won't be back until the spring." Well, the following February, Mrs. Harper was roused about 2 a.m. by the loud ringing of the doorbell. No one was at the door. Later on, she received a letter saying that he had died. Her son, Professor Roland Harper, geographer, is substantiating the story, saying, "I do not know whether the difference is time between Germany and New York was taken into consideration or not," when she verified the hour on a visit to Germany some years later. So, it was around the time that she said she saw him. My next story is a scary one. A man named Rollo A. Talcott, he dean of the School of Expression and Dramatic Art, gave this experience. "I went to the Vallisperia, Indiana, to Shamokin, Pennsylvania, to bring my young sister-in-law back where she was to enter school. She had an attack of appendicitis the week before, and when school was just going to be open, but she had gotten better and was well enough to go back with me. She went through Pittsburgh, and I was sitting back in my seat rather drowsily when I got the impression that I was sitting on a rough box which was drawn along the station platform. The thought did not occur to me until just 1 week later, when I was returning with her body because she had passed on. It was put on the wrong train. I had to make the transfer myself to the train I was going on, and in the transfer, I got in the motor truck and suddenly found myself sitting on the rough box that I had seen in my dream." So it's quite a sad story. Next is the Mother Strange Dream about a twin baby. Miss Anna Dawson, Women's Club leader and lecturer, writes, "My mother had twin babies. She dreamed that one died. She dreamed that she went out to the neighbors about the death of her child, and it was a long time ago, and the question was what to do with the body of the dead baby until the undertaker could come. The neighbor in the dream suggested putting the body in the bureau drawer until the undertaker could come. 3 days later, the baby did die, and the neighbor, as seen in the dream, suggested placing the body of the baby in the bureau drawer." My last one is a man named Louis Attefoy. He was a dental lithographer for many years and professor in the dental college, now dean of the Institute of Dental Science in Oakland, California. He presents the interesting case of twin brothers. One remained in the United States while the other one was in Manila. Professor Offity, who knew the brother had died in the Philippines, forwarded to the family in America details of the traveler's last hours. In reply, he learned that on the day of the death in Manila, the twin in the United States had jumped out of bed, looked at his clock, and ran into his parents' room and said, "My brother just died." He had not known that anything had happened, really, and his brother was in very good health. He inspected the Manila hospital chart showing the hour and minute of the death when it occurred, and then he went to the Manila inventory computer, and it was in the small town in the United States where it was verified that it was at the same moment that he had died. So there are very strange stories. I hope you enjoy them.